Some of you might recall that we had a PR nightmare. Self-generated PR nightmare, no less. One of our tweeters tweeted out, "Hey, we have a mountain lion at Project Harmony.
Isn't he cute?"
Yeah. Well, you know how people in Omaha seem to think wild animals are cute, like the lady who went to the zoo and tried to pet the tiger. Okay.
Little theme going on there.
So what you see here is we had this mountain lion. You don't have a mountain lion in the city. You might have a mountain lion on the outskirts of Lincoln, but in Omaha, in the city, this is really unusual. And so what we did, this was going on because the tweet had gone out, everybody was out there, the media was out there, people were following Twitter, and what people didn't see was the behind the actions, the talking to the Humane Society, the talking to the Game and Parks people, do we have tranquilizers, do we have the right stuff to get this animal safely put somewhere. And if you don't know, do you want to explain what Project Harmony is?
Project Harmony is a place where we investigate sexual assaults on children. It's the Children Victim Sexual Assault Unit. So we have a lot of people in and out of there, a lot of kids. This cat was actually laying right next to the front door. We had people coming in, and again, since we sent that tweet out, we just invited everybody, "Hey, come on down and see this cat." Well, guess who's the first people to show up? Our friends in the media. So we invited everybody in. So it was a really bad situation, and we had to act quick. You know, this it was just sitting there. It wasn't really doing anything, but that is not their normal behavior. So we did, do a perimeter and had all of that stuff going on, but it really wasn't an option to tranquilize. We were working with Game and Parks on this, and the decision was made to put the animal down. So on TV, I don't know if it was live or not, but it might as well have been. We have 4 officers shooting at this cat.
Aimed like that,
yeah.
Like a firing squad.
Multiple times, because as soon as they hit the cat, it got up. And so they had to fire several times to put the animal down, so.
13.
Yeah.
I say that only because that added to the PR nightmare. Because people will go, well, why couldn't you just shoot it? Why'd you have to shoot it? Why couldn't you just shoot it once? Why'd you have to shoot it 13 times? And after the firing squad that was caught all on video with the media was done,
it's played over and over and over again.
It still wasn't dead, and an officer approached with his service revolver and put the animal down. So we had a feeling things weren't going to go real good for us. So here's what happened. We had 2,672 comments, like within probably 36 hours. Out of those, I was being generous to us and saying 90% were negative, probably 97 or 8% were negative. It was really bad. We got totally beat up. Here are a couple of ones that I kind of found interesting. OPD, you boys are so brave with your guns and shooting injured cats, so heroic. I wish I could be that brave and have the guts to put down a hurt animal that hadn't posed a threat to anyone. And then of course 12 people liked it, and then below that, how would it take off across a parking lot with a broken leg, which we found out it had a broken leg. This was like shooting fish in a barrel, lame excuse, typical textbook spokesperson response. We're disgusted. So is 138 other people. So, we had to deal with that, and we did work with all of the experts in that field. We did get something from the Game and Parks. We did put that out in part of our press release explaining why we did what we did. But if you hurt an animal, you can't win. You absolutely can't win. So we thought, we're just going to have to wait it out, let people vent. We put up there, part of our policy is you can't swear. So then once we put that up, we got all these complaints about censorship, that we were censoring people. Our policy is that if you swear, it will be taken down. We don't allow people to put links. It'll be taken down. So, they can't just post. They have to comment. They can't just post. So, excuse me. So we had this going on, knowing full well we're going to have to just wait it out. And the next day we had this. Do you want to talk about this case?
So this case came about, does everybody remember this? Does anybody not know what this case is? Basically, a little boy was thrown into the river and died by his brother.
Stepbrother.
This totally took our attention off the mountain lion.
It was like, as if it didn't exist.
Yeah, I mean, it's just crazy how it can go from like one extreme to the next. But, and this, another interesting story about this one is we had one of our news stations actually reporting out that police know where this little boy is at. That family, and so I called them up and said, no, we don't know. We're going to launch a big search right now in the river. They said, oh, no, we didn't say that you guys said that. We said that a family member said that police said that you found him. And I'm like, okay, well, it doesn't really matter, it's wrong. And they kept going with it, so I ended up tweeting out, hey, so-and-so's report is incorrect, and we have not found the boy. We're launching a search right now. And actually their news director called up the chief and was really mad about it, but I'm like, hey, you guys didn't correct it, so I had to correct it myself. So again, taking action, so.
And those are some of the decisions that you have to make. You know, do you leave that incorrect information out? Do you take action against it? Going back to the mountain lion, one of the private messages we got, a lady said, your officer is a bunch of idiots. I can't believe they would do this. What a bunch of jerks. And she just went on and on. You know, once in a while, it just gets under your skin. Most times it's okay, but in this case, I emailed back to her private message and said, first of all, our officers are not jerks. Second of all, we spoke to the experts and we got the experts' opinion on what to do. And so if you don't want to sound like an idiot, perhaps you might want to check with the experts as well. Yeah, you know, so I'm like,
and our officers did not want to put this cat down. That's the last thing they wanted to do. I mean, they acted like the officers like, woohoo, I'm going to take it home and put it on my wall. That was not the case at all.
But I hit send. Because I decided at that point I was just angry enough that if I got in trouble I would take it. And she wrote back and she said, oh, sorry. So when Carrie died, we didn't have it. That was definitely fly by the seat of your pants. It was happening live time. It was happening now. The whole world was paying attention. How did everybody think the funeral went? Did it look good out in public? All the stuff? Some of the things you didn't see is we didn't have a command station. We were just kind of, and I'll let you, this is kind of your thing because you were in charge.
I don't know that I really want to go into this a whole lot, but just a little bit of background on this. Bridget did a really nice job with her social media. One thing that we were really blessed with is Carrie was out there so much. We had so much information that we were able to put out there, put a personal touch on it right away. Bridget got right on that and did that. And, you know, this isn't a negative situation for the police department. Not that it was a positive one, but it was certainly one that would garner public support. So we did really reach the public by telling our story. You know, we told lots and lots of stories. So, but you know, what you didn't see is, oh gosh, it was just so crazy. I mean, I didn't even deal with social media at all. Bridget was doing all of that because we're dealing with planning a funeral for a family that wants to have the funeral in the church. Well, you can't, you know, everybody, she's part of Omaha, she's all of ours. We talked to the media, we really tried to stage the media so they couldn't get that money shot. And we told the media, hey, we were just honest with them. Hey, here's what's going on. You know, you can film everyone else, but Hector does not want to be filmed. And you know what? God bless the media. Mm-hmm. And you know what? That's because we have a really good relationship with our media. Literally, when we had somebody standing next to him, and as the car with the family was going by, we're like, okay, this is Hector, and they took their cameras and turned it to the side. So they were very respectful. But you know what? That's because we built that relationship up. So it's really important to build those relationships and have those ready when something like this does happen. But it was, you know, our internal communication wasn't the best. In hindsight, well, and that's the important thing too. In hindsight, make sure you look back and say, okay, could we have done this better or next time? Because it will happen again. You know, hopefully it won't be as crazy as this, but you know, we're not so naive to think that we're never going to have another officer-involved death or serious injury. So, hey, next time, here's what we're going to do. You know, we'll have a command center together that will, you know, help making all those arrangements. We had family members that were trying to, or actually officers that were friends of the family that were trying to get Hector's relatives in and plane reservations, and they're like, we need to fly this person. I'm like, oh, perfect, just buy it. And he just kind of looked at me and I said, do you need my credit card? He goes, here you go, don't tell my husband. So, that's how crazy it was. But we had other resources that we could have used. It's just that we didn't take the time to sit down and get organized. So
we didn't have the time to sit down and get organized.
But we didn't take that initial step to
Yeah.
say, hey, let's pull everybody together and do this, where it makes a little bit more sense. So.
Now as you can see, I put up this is what we would do different, and like Darci said, hindsight, but we now have a funeral protocol, which we should have had in the first place, but we have it now. And the officer that she's talking about, he was an integral part of the PIO office. And so here you have this mass crisis thing going on, all hands on deck, -1. Completely lost him. When we needed +3, we were -1. So it was really tough. I think
he was one of the officers that works in our office. We only have three officers, me and then Bridget. So one of our officers was actually Carrie's partner. So I had to call him and say, hey, I was actually supposed to get my hair cut by his wife, and said, hey, can you call your wife and tell her I got to cancel? And by the way, you probably should start heading this way. And that was before I knew it was Carrie. It was just, horrible.
So first thing we did was we tweeted out officer down. Pretty much we knew she was probably not going to make it or deceased at that point, but we couldn't release that information. I have this up here because look at the numbers. We reached over 6 million people, and the death of Officer Roscoe is tragic. The death of any officer is tragic. Hers is no more tragic. She has different circumstances. This person over here, there was an officer ambushed last night, sitting in their car. They have different circumstances. It's all bad. What's different now is social media. So social media has opened the doors to the world. So you've got to be prepared that when you have a huge crisis, it can go to 6 million people. It can go to 12 million people. It gets out there. So on May 19th, the day before Carrie died, on Facebook we had 39,000 likes. On May 26th, a week later, we had gained 27,000 more likes and had gotten up to 67,000. So a lot of that, I believe, was us putting our stories out. This is a human interest story. If there's nothing else I could explain to people about social media, is don't be like a brick and mortar business. Be human. People, we weren't the only ones grieving. We were grieving, but so was the rest of the world. And as we were making these plans, my job, and again, never have done it before, flying by the seat of your pants, my job was to make sure that nobody trashed us on social media. Because the trolls come out, we're going to take all that down. Nobody trashed us. But what happened was, because it is social media and because everybody can reach everyone through social media, all of the law enforcement agencies, the fire departments, any first responders that wanted to come for the funeral were reaching out through Facebook, as was every single person that wanted to offer a condolence. So my job was to go through all those messages, and I was there till 10:30 that first night, and my desire, learn from my mistake, my desire was to answer each one of those condolences, to say thank you, we appreciate it. And then in between those 3,000 condolences was 15 officers saying, hey, where do you want us to meet? So you had to go through each and every one of those to get to be able to say to the officers, this is where we want you to meet, bring your cruiser, etc. I was doing that by myself, and that's probably where I did need the Valium. And what we learned was one person can't do that. When you have a big crisis like that, put some more people on it, find some more people to respond. Those people, I didn't need to respond to those people, but we're all in a state of shock, and I just assumed, my mama raised me right. You say thank you when somebody offers a condolence, and that's what I wanted to do, which I think in the long run helped us, but the wear and tear was extreme. So these were just some of.
I'm going to say something. One of the things that I think we do well in our office is that we know what our resources are and we reach out to available resources. One of the things that Bridget eventually did is reached out to some of those police wives, because here's the other thing we had to manage. We had to manage people wanting to donate stuff. We had to manage people wanting to do something. Everybody wanted to be a part of this, and rightfully so. So we were trying to manage that. How do you let everybody have a little piece of what's going on? We had reached out to several of our spouses and actually made them temporary administrators to our Facebook page. And those ladies, I tell you what, they rocked. And you know what? They ended up having they're created an organization now, and they're all together doing good things. So it just keep in mind what your available resources are. You know, we've got other people in our department. We have a very small social media department, but we have like 30 tweeters. Those are just our other officers that are out tweeting, and so just maximize your resources. It doesn't have to just be those people that work for you, or it can be anybody. It can be, you know, reaching out to your friend, hey, we have a crisis, can you help us? You know, make sure you have a lot of friends and a good contact list.
These are some of the benefits of staying on top. What we've done at the Omaha Police Department is we've basically created our own media outlet. So we tell our story our way before somebody else does. We lead our story. Decide what you want out. When Darci talked about the mountain lion and, you know, it went out on a tweet, she now says to people, that tweet has the potential to be tomorrow or maybe today's, if it's big enough, today's front page news. Do you want that out there? And are you ready to do an interview, or are you ready to go to the 6th floor for internal affairs? You know, think about what message you're putting out. You've got to be responsive to your fans. Again, with my example, that's unusual. But we still try to, when there's questions on our Facebook page, Darci has our light duty assigned to the messages now, so when the messages come in, we can respond appropriately. Although I will tell you, I got a message yesterday. Did you see this one?
The finger, the middle one?
I got a middle finger yesterday.
Were you the one that responded, thank you, and carry on? I was like, I'm not sure if I would have said that, but
when people send me the bird or the F word or whatever that privately in a private message, then I become automated. And I say, thank you for sending that message. Someone will be with you soon. And then I swear, but not out loud. So, but you can imagine the word I drop on them. So we are responsive, and those are the kind of people that make me have fun with my job, because they're just jerks, and they're always going to be there. And again, like I said earlier, be human. Really, really important. Don't be a corporate agency. Be human, because if you're a corporate agency, they're going to toast you. We did, again, a lot of just making sure that people are aware of what was going on. A lot of photos. We built photo albums. We showed officers grieving. It was. You can see there we were 999% above our average. Too big of a price to pay to get your numbers up, though. And this is what I like, because for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. Plus, there's a social media overreaction. Never stops. The trolls are always looking for something to do. They always want to start trouble, and people fall into that trolldom. I posted a picture, I want to say 2 days ago, of an officer in uniform lying on the floor reading to 2 of his little kids in bed, 2 little toddlers. It went to more than 1 million people, million views, but people started talking. One person posted, "This is why we need more gun laws." Okay, so then somebody else says, "What are you talking about, more gun laws? You Looney Tunes, you know?" And then another person goes, da, 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 and it goes, and so it goes on, and I watch this. You need to pay attention, and so I watch it, and after a while, I'm sick of it, because what happened to my cute little picture up here is now going to gun laws, whether we need more or less, and all of that. So I jump in there and I go, hey, isn't that a great picture? It's not really anything about gun control, but if we post something on gun control, please feel free to jump in. But in the meantime, let's appreciate this picture for its humanness. And then one of the lead guys said, I respectfully bow out. So then I responded again, oh, you are such a gentleman. Thank you. You know, but if you can have fun with it, but you have to monitor it. You have to stay on top of a crisis. You know, we want 48 hours to respond to a crisis, forget that. You got to be on it. You might have to be on it in the first hour. You at least got to make sure you know about it. We have tools where we listen to find out who's talking about the Omaha Police Department, what they're going to say. Do you want to talk about the nursing thing? I was out of town and I saw a tweet and it said, Omaha Police Department, I'm really disappointed in you. I'm like, huh? So I looked at the link and there was a school board, OPS school board meeting, and they were changing their sex education curriculum. And so some activist group had gotten wind of that, and where they normally have 200 people, they had 1,000 people. One of those people was a nursing mother who's also an activist for another group, who saw a guy in the group that she had protested against, and he didn't like nursing mothers, he didn't like nursing in public, so what does she do? She nurses in public. And not just nursing in public, but she's out there. So unfortunately, one of our officers, female officers, goes up to her, cameras everywhere, and says, put that away, aren't you embarrassed? My God. And just really allegedly says that, yeah. So that became the story. Much bigger than the sex education changes. It was the officer shaming the woman for breastfeeding in public. And so while I was out of town, I wrote back and said, are you guys paying attention to this? It has potential to go south. Well, then it was, okay, where are we? 1 to 5, 5 being a crisis, where are we? And the PIO said we're like barely a 2. Sit on it. Just sit on it. Don't add to it. If it goes to a 3, start watching it closer. If it goes to 3.5 or 4, then we can talk about what we're going to do. And it never went anywhere. And we've had a lot of things.
Yeah. Another thing that we did is we actually reached out to that breastfeeding group. One of the gals in my office is actually breastfeeding. We've got a lot of breastfeeding mothers, and just said, hey, sorry to hear about that. Did you file a complaint? Our internal affairs guys are excellent. You should definitely file a complaint if you think that that they acted inappropriately. And by the way, do you want to sit down and have coffee sometime? And they met. And the complaining party did not show up, but all the other mothers did. So now we have some money in the bank for next time. So we made a lot of friends. So, do we have anything else? Do we have
no, that's
it.
For
questions? Wow. Really? Okay. Thanks.
Do you have a policy on tweeting now?
Oh, do we have a policy on tweeting?
We have guidelines. We have guidelines. Every person who becomes a tweeter is given guidelines. If you're tweeting on behalf of the Omaha Police Department, your handle is usually OPD Lieutenant Tierney. I'm OPD Bridget. There's some representative to, in your handle who you are. We do watch our tweeters. We've had to ask one to step back and step out. It's really easy to handle this. She's a great boss in this sense. Trying to preface that. When you make a mistake, if you learn from your mistake, we're all good. If you make it again, then we're going to talk. And she was a tweeter that was more in your face. Like we'd make an arrest and the guy'd be down on the ground with cuffs, and she'd say, "Oh, another one for Omaha Police, we win." Stuff like that. That's just not good PR. But yeah, we have.
Before the mountain lion incident.
Yes.
Yeah. When we started it, we kind of basically started with some guidelines. We handpicked some people, and then I found out really quickly that, she really only wanted us to have 6 tweeters. And I'm like, yeah, but these people, look at the tweets they're doing now that we have 30. but it's just a constant communication with our tweeters. We have an email string, and if we see something, if there's some big event going on, we might just ping everybody and say, hey, this is going on, make sure you're mindful of that when you're tweeting today. You don't want to be tweeting happy when, something bad is going on that they may not be aware of. So we keep into pretty close contact with our tweeters.
It was a bad one, another bad one, like the mountain lion, where our officers went into a house, chased into a house, and ended up taking the 5 officers were fired. And it was an ugly period of time. It wasn't good for us. And somebody out of the blue, still to this day don't know who it is, posted a funny comment on Facebook, one of our people. And it was I think it was a motorcycle guy a motorcycle officer with a tub next to him that says driving clean or something like that. Something really stupid, but in the middle of a crisis. And so what Darci did was she locked everybody down. we had, like, I think myself and her were the only people allowed to post on Facebook until things settled down, until we got our ground, we knew where we were at. But
Well, that was back, now it shows who posts stuff, but back then it didn't, so it
Yeah.
could have been any, and we had probably, what, I don't know.
We probably had about,
10
10
administrators, so it's like, okay, everybody's locked out until we get this, but, you know, sometimes you have to take action like that, so. What else?
How did you find working with the national media? Were they pretty open to
Did you deal with them?
ideas? And
I
that
dealt
kind of
with myself because it was so emotional. I'm like, Hector, I didn't want to cry on TV, and you see all these sad people, and I don't want to cry on TV because you get the ugly face, you know, and I don't want to do that. And CNN asked for an interview, and actually local TV had asked for an interview, and I said, no, I just can't do it. And then CNN, they were at our monument, and so with all the flowers, and it was just touching, and so I gave an interview for them. But the national media, and I think, I gotta say, I think it's because we have such a good relationship with our local media. We have a lot in the bank. We work with them. We give them bones. They've come to us and asked us for good news stories. They've asked us to give them our good news stories, which, you know, we're still shaking our heads. But I think because it was so positively covered locally, because of the circumstances with Carrie, you know, an hour away from getting off to go home and take care of her baby on maternity leave, all of the little different dynamics of it, and the fact that a lot of our officers were available and would go on. I mean, we had a national reporter break down in tears reporting the story. That was tough. That was tough to watch, but there's just something about this particular story that touched people. Now, that's not to say we didn't see, good, another officer killed, one less officer. We saw that, but not on a national level.
Well, one other thing that I just wanted to mention is, you know, we went through Von Maur, which was a national event, the school shooting. So we've been through several of these, but I want to say this one seemed to go a little bit smoother because, and I think, I mean, with the media, just because we were putting so much information out there. We were feeding our website. Before, you'd have people call the office and we'd have like a million messages. We just couldn't talk to everybody, but since we were pushing our message out there, that really, really helped. That really saved us from having to touch each and every person because we would just refer them to our website, or they didn't even call us because they would just get it off the Facebook page. So we did set up a couple interviews with national media. They asked who would be good to talk to, and then we just set them up. But yeah, they were great. We didn't. I don't know what your thoughts are on media, but I've been around in this job for about 7 years. They can drive you nuts. But you know what? They can be a real asset too. I mean, just like Bridget said, we had one of our media stations that was called Bridget up and said, "Hey, that good news story you just posted on Facebook. Hey, can you just give that to us next time? Because you know we both put it out there, we'll get more exposure." And we want to be exclusive on it, and they want those good news stories. So tell your story. And everybody's got good stories. Tell your story, because then, you know, think of it as a bank. You know, if you're putting in deposits all the time, good stories, then when something happens that's really bad, you're going to have to take money out of the bank. So you better make sure you have enough money in the bank so you don't go bankrupt. So.
Oh, I just had a question about when you said you didn't feel like you were wanting to speak to the media on camera. Did the chief get involved in this big story, like a officer down?
Yes.
Did she need to be the face of the LPD?
The chief is very clear in his directives. He goes for he was very open and available, especially for the details of the shooting, the criminal side of the matter. We made sure that all of that was posted on our Facebook page. I call him Oz now because I've been trying to get him out on social media much, much more. And I think I'm smarter than the chief, so I think I'm on the right path. Well, the other day, the person that bought the gun and gave it to the guy that killed Carrie Orozco got probation for purchasing that gun, and our chief was livid. So he put out, and in hindsight, we wish we would have videotaped his comments, so I would encourage you to videotape if you can, but he put out comments to his displeasure with that ruling. And we hit over 500,000 people on that. So once we hit over 500,000 people, I emailed him and said, Well, you're kind of like the Great Oz. When the Great Oz speaks, people listen. So he's right. We keep him specifically for things that are really, really important. He wants our officers to get the press. He wants our officers to look good. But when our officers do something that might look bad, that's when you might hear from him, but it would be major. So we try to keep him, he tries to keep himself down.
One of the other things that every once in a while you get somebody that'll say, apparently we're the email for the Facebook police, because if we have an employee that has something questionable, they'll call us and say, hey, or send us an email, hey, did you see this picture on their page? So, we're pretty cool. We usually just contact that person and say, hey, that picture you got up there, if something happens to you tonight, are you okay with that being on the front page of the World Herald? And they usually take it down. So that's usually kind of we like to throw stuff back on, hey, it's your page, it's your image, you need to be responsible for it. We don't really want to handle it internally. You should probably just use better judgment, so.
Way back in the back.
Do you do a training for all of the officers in that regard? I mean, I would think that there'd be a little bit more tape, but I'm just thinking of companies hiring younger people who just use social media all the time as part of an onboarding. Do you just wait for them to totally inappropriate and address it individually, or do you do it as kind of a class or a training?
I will answer that.
Okay.
We do have, every time you become a tweeter, I'm the only one now that, Darci set it up where she wants everything that goes on Facebook to go through me. So I'm the only one, so if somebody screws up on Facebook, it's me. For the tweeters, we just have a basic standard, it's not an SOP, but it's a list of ways to do your Twitter account. Guidelines. And there was another part I was going to answer to your question, but I can't remember what it was.
We don't have a, surprisingly enough, our people are great. If you give them the responsibility of, hey, that's on you, you're responsible, you are reflecting the Omaha Police Department. If you send out that tweet, we have to remind people sometime, hey, that tweet you sent out, that's a press release. I mean, we have media calling and asking, hey, did you guys just make an arrest on whatever? I go, I don't know, I'm not in the office. Well, where'd you hear it? On Twitter. From our account, yes. Then that's a press release. Yes, we did. But we really harp on our people that, hey, that is a press release. And, if you're going to put something out, because the media is going to call us and say, hey, can we do an interview about that tweet? And we're going to call you and say, hey, do you want to do an interview about that? So it's kind of an ongoing training, I guess. I don't like to put a whole lot of rules on it because people are really creative and they really do a good job. And if they, but you do have to watch it just to make sure they're going down the right track. And if they're not, then you got to address it.
Can I speak to that? I want to add a little bit more now that I got my train of thought back. When we first started doing social media, especially Facebook, there was not an officer in the building that wanted anything to do with it. Are you guys experiencing that? Yeah, cops are like, no way, you go on Facebook, you go on social media, you are going to be in so much trouble. Something's going to happen, public's going to hate you. It's very negative. It's taken us probably 4 years to really now where I have more stories coming in than I can post right away. But when the pause up thing happened, the chief put out an email on OPD everybody with reminder guidelines, and so the scuttle then became, all right, who screwed up? Because people know somebody screwed up and somebody's going to screw up, and if they're stupid enough to screw up really bad, then let the chips fall where they may, because some people make really, really, really poor choices. But if it was an honest mistake, if it didn't, bring complete disgrace to the department, we'll figure it out. Is that an answer? Was that a question from the ghost, or did?
Sorry, this is a question and partly my opinion, so just disregard it.
Okay, but never mind. Next.
In my opinion, there's a strong building disrespect for police, but I think a lot of people have been incited to not respect the police or to buck authority, and I think it's resulted in officers being not only shot in the line of duty, but now targeted. There was one in California yesterday that was targeted. You see that as a looming crisis, since on social media these things can can come out of nowhere. Do you feel that that is a looming crisis for?
Well, I think
Omaha Police
my
Department?
response to that is, that's the whole reason why we're doing that whole Support Blue campaign. The campaign isn't really about, hey, support your local law enforcement, you know, they just beat up you or whatever, but it's okay. That's not what it's about. It's about, hey, it's about those police departments actually going out in their community and gaining that respect. I mean, just like we're doing, again, putting money in the bank. You know, you can't just expect that your public is going to respect authority and do that. You have to go out and do that community outreach. We do tons of stuff, and we do coffee with a cop. I mean, every chance we get to be out in the public and talking to people, to kids, in a positive light, jump at those chances. I mean, coffee with a cop is a no-brainer. It's a free, I mean, we'll go to a Dunkin' Donut, hey, can we do coffee with a cop at your place Friday? All we want is to be able to come in with several officers, and we want you to give everybody free coffee for an hour. It's a no-brainer. It costs us absolutely nothing. And then we, snap some pictures, put it on social media. People eat that stuff up. But there's so many different opportunities, and that's what we're trying to do with that Support Blue program. Is we're actually trying to do a road show, like maybe get a van. We're going to go big with a bus, and you wrap it and you make it a big deal, and you go out in those communities and you talk to the local law enforcement agencies and see what they're doing. In the media, you ask the media, hey, how's it going with your police department? And, and try to bridge that gap. And that's all we're trying to do is bridge the gap, whether it be the media or the community. But I think that that's where it's at.